Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Generation Y, 4:30 till 5:30 every Sunday on IQRA TV. We're your hosts, Talha.
And I'm Bilal, and today we've got a special debate type style show for you guys. We're going to be discussing the topics social media, education and the effects of drugs and alcohol.
Today we're happily joined by 4 guests. We'll start off with Seg, just a bit of background information about yourself, you're growing up, what are you studying at the moment?
Well, I'm 16 years old and I'm studying A levels and I'm doing biology, chemistry and product design.
Hanif?
My name's Hanif Mahmood and I'm studying GCSEs at the moment. I'm 15 years old.
Sania?
My name's Sania. I'm studying business, maths and English and I'm in my second year of A levels.
And Rabia?
I'm in year 12. I'm studying biology, chemistry, maths and RS.
Yeah, so we've got I think everyone around, we're all around the ages of 15, 16, 17 and we're all in education or higher education. So I think we're going to start off with social media and the effect it has on the youth. Like for me personally, I think it's had a huge impact on my life. Growing up, every day when I wake up, I've got my phone out. As soon as I wake up, I'm checking my Facebook, my Snapchat, my Instagram to see what's going on. How about you, Sid? What impact do you feel it's had on your life?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right, and it's had a big impact on my life as well. Mainly through education and contacting my friends and staying up to date with everything around the world.
Would you say that you use social media quite regularly on a regular basis?
Yeah, I use it quite a lot, and it's mainly just to keep myself aware of everything going on around the world and then contacting friends and things like that.
How do you, obviously with your studies as well, obviously you're doing your A levels now, and obviously there's a lot of revision to do every single day, so how do you, differentiate between studying and, going on social media?
Well, it is pretty easy if you make sure your mind's ready for it, and you got to make sure that you got to be strict with yourself. Lock it away, put your phone away, turn it off, so it's a lot harder to access it. And if you need to use the internet, then get a laptop. It's a lot easier and it's less easy to get distracted.
Yeah, it's a bit like driving, like they say, lock your phone away in the compartment so you don't use it. Sania, going over to you, obviously, Say just mentioned the positive side of social media. From your point of view, what do you think about social media?
I think in terms of social media, if you're connecting it to education, then I think it has a really negative impact because all it takes is 2 seconds to go on your phone and you just start scrolling through Instagram, Snapchat, anything, and you just get distracted really easily. Like, I'm one of those people who does find it hard to keep education and social media separate. So what I did this year was just deleted all social media because it's my final year of A levels. Obviously it's really important, so I thought if I got rid of all social media I'd find it so much easier to focus on studying, and I have so far.
What impact has it made, like deleting all your social media all of a sudden?
I thought I'd find it hard to not Snapchat anything, not scroll through Instagram, but I actually found it really easy and I'm not tempted to go on it, and rather than sitting there on my phone or laid in bed scrolling through Instagram, I can now pick up a book, study, revise for tests.
So you think it's had more of a positive impact on your life?
Yeah, definitely.
Hanif, how do you feel like we've got a Said who is for social media, it's helped him out in school, and Sania, she thinks had a huge impact when she deleted social media. What's your perspective?
I feel that social media, you can say it's all bad and you can stay away from it, but as a youngster, I think it's an integral part of our life, and it enables us to be aware of our surroundings, and yeah, I believe it's a good thing.
Obviously you're doing your GCSEs now as well, and just as A levels, they're both hard. You have to take time out to revise. So how do you get away from social media to make time for education and revision? Usually,
because the phone is a distraction, I set myself a timetable. With that timetable, I stick to it. So then when I do go on social media on my phone, then I go on it in my breaks. But I have to make sure that I don't go on it when I'm revising.
I think that's a good point for all the youth out there as well, making your own timetable. You have time for both social media and education. Going over to you, Rabia, obviously you've seen Said, Hanif and Sania's point of view on social media. What do you find about social media itself, and obviously you studying A-levels as
Yeah.
well?
Well, although I agree that it's got many positive aspects, I think on the whole it's not a great thing, and it can lead to like bigger problems like cyberbullying, which is like it affects a lot of people, and usually people just send messages and stuff as a joke, and they're not always taken that way. So you know, it can lead to cyberbullying, which I don't think it's good. And yeah, just on the whole it's quite time consuming, and it's a big distraction too.
Yeah, social media, it's like you're saying, it can be bad and it can be positive, but do you not feel that as soon as when we come into this world and we start in the now ages, everyone's starting using phones at 6, 7, and you've got young kids on Snapchat, it should be maybe almost taught in schools that how to use Snapchat, how to use social media effectively and positively and not in a negative way. Do you think that maybe elders should play a part in actually teaching youngsters how to use Snapchat and use Instagram correctly, how to use it?
Well, yeah, I think so, because it's usually like young people who sort of do it out of naivety most of the time when they don't think it's a big deal. So if they were taught how to use it properly, that would be good. But I think overall they should be sort of like, they should limit how long they spend on their phones.
Before you mentioned cyberbullying, and obviously over the years, you know, the amount of cyberbullying that's taking place has increased. Sania, what do you think about cyberbullying? Obviously, it's had an impact, and the reason it's had an impact on us today is because of the amount of people on social media. Like Bilal said, a lot of youngsters on social media as well. What do you think about cyberbullying?
I think cyberbullying is obviously a very important issue, and they do teach it in schools, like how to stay safe on the internet, how to make sure your passwords are strong, not meet strangers online. But I guess it used to be I think it used to be taught more like earlier, and nowadays people don't really mention it as much. So we do have like youngsters, and by youngsters I mean like kids age 8 or 9, and they've got Snapchat, they've got their own phones and stuff like that. And I don't think they're being taught as much as like how to act sensible online.
Yeah, what Sanya just said now is 100% correct. It's kind of like there's a limit to how old you can be to have a phone, and I think it's down to parents to put that in their child's mind. And yeah, it is cyberbullying is increasing massively over the years, and I think that's mainly due to differences in culture and things like that.
Yeah, so Hasneef, have you got anything else to add on?
I was just going to say that school, they teach us about cyberbullying and they teach us about internet and social media, but I think it's all really negative. Maybe if they taught us about something positive about it, then we could build on that and stay away from the negativity around these medias.
Yeah, and as well as cyberbullying taking place online, there's a lot of other impact social media has. Like, you look at Instagram, Facebook and Snapchat, you always look at the people with the most followers, people with the most likes, and we're always influenced by this because everyone wants the most likes, and that really has a huge impact on the younger generation. Because if you see, I'm sure you guys know, if you see like a really popular person, 100k followers, 200k followers, who's bought something or who's doing something, you're automatically inspired and you really want to do that thing because that makes you feel cool. What's your impact? What's your input on that?
Well, I think obviously if you look at somebody with a lot of followers, like it's sort of you know, natural for young people to be like, oh, I really want to be like that. But usually, like most of the time when you see people with these like really big accounts and stuff, and they're buying all these like fancy things and stuff, it is sort of like you don't know how they're living their life, and you don't know anything about them. And most of the time it is like false advertisement. And I think it's like they're portraying like a false image of what's actually happening. Like if you knew them personally, you'd know that like their account doesn't sort of reflect them. So
yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Obviously, you know, links like Bilal said to influences, and talking about that, there's also other influences like, you know, if for example I'm wearing Adidas, someone sees me wearing Adidas, you know, it's like you have to follow the trend, you have to wear what other people are wearing. Mentioning this, what do you think about, you know, this happening? Obviously, I think it's a negative. It has a negative impact on society and the youth, especially if you're following the trend and not being you have to like wear what other people are wearing. What do you think about this?
I think it's a lack of individual belief, because a person should feel comfortable in what he chooses to earn and disregard outside influences, because that's just following the crowd. And as parents, they should teach their children that you need to be your own person in life and live it how you want to live it.
I think it's like a popularity contest as well, like how you're saying about how people have more followers and more likes. You'll see what those people are doing, what sort of stuff they're posting, what sort of stuff they're wearing, and in order to get as many likes and followers as they do, you'll copy them. And you might not think you're copying, but in a way you are. Like, it might be subtle, you might not realise it yourself, but other people will notice, and slowly you'll start to develop what these people are doing, and you might be getting more followers, but at the end of the day, what is it really achieving?
Yeah, and on top of that, I don't know if any of you lot have realised, but this form of bullying's come in where people look at your clothes and they talk about it being fake, and they label you as wearing fake clothes or real clothes, and that's how you start to move up in society. But I think that's where it comes wrong, because that's where the bullying comes in quite a lot as well, because that's where people that's where people think you're lower than them because they're wearing the real label and you're not.
Do you think is that why most schools, especially in Bradford as well, go for a uniform, go for business dress? Is it because of the bullying side of it? Because a lot of bullying takes place if one person comes in, just casual wear, and someone else comes in all designer wear.
Yeah, because like for example, my secondary school, we all had to wear a suit, so we all had to dress the same. And one core belief that they had was that we were all the same, as well as being different people. We were all wearing the same clothes. We were all walking around the school the same way, not being treated differently, just to make everybody fit in and make everybody feel in the same place.
Coming back onto a point what Hanif was saying about people not being themselves, but I think it's human nature just to adapt to your surroundings, because that's what we are. They say, and I've said this loads of times, Generation Y before, you are an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it's true, because say if you're surrounded by really smart people, you've grown up with smart people, chances are you're going to put a lot of work in and you're going to get good grades as well. But if you grow up with people who are over smoking and stuff like that, chances are you might be smoking as well. Just like that, we're growing up in a society now where everyone's wearing designer clothes, you're wearing your big brands, and just like that, if you don't wear it, then you might not fit in, and that's just something that happens to all of us, and maybe it's not wrong.
Yeah, Bilal mentioned as well about smoking and stuff like that. Smoking, alcohol, you see it a lot in today's youth. A lot of people in the corner of streets, smoking, drinking. What's the impact on this about, a lot of youth doing these kinds of stuff? Is it because they can't be bothered with education? Are they stressed out? What do you think?
I think smoking and drugs is more of an influence thing. So I guess like how you said, the people you surround yourself with, if those people are the kind of people who smoke, to fit in with them, you'll want to smoke as well. Whereas if you associated yourself with people who maybe didn't smoke, didn't do drugs, then you'd keep away from that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And there's a lot. This is where your parents come in a lot, and it's how you're brought up. If you're brought up in difficult situations, some people can handle those difficult situations and will know that it's bad for them, and some people won't be able to handle it, and some people will go into things like depression and go into things like drugs and taking drugs just to get their mind off things.
Just to build on his point, I was just going to say that parents are such an important part of the children's life, and at this young age we're not thinking straight in a sense, because it's all about the influences and the lack of knowledge, the naivety, because in a lot of religions it teaches that all these self-harm things are not good for you and they're prohibited. So I think the parents should teach their children that this is the way to live your life and you have to keep away from these things that harm yourself.
Yeah, I agree, and I think most people actually, when they start smoking or whatever, it's to be cool. Like they want to show, it's not cool, but they want to show others that like we can, try this or whatever, and then other people might be like, oh yeah, let's try that because it's the cool thing to do, but it's not. And also, as you were saying, people might be stressed and they might say that, oh, because you hear that like, oh, smoking, like people who smoke, they sort of do it to reduce their stress. So they might be, you know, stressed with work or whatever, and then be like, oh yeah, let me try a cigarette, and then that's how they get addicted.
But there's obviously other methods as well of like
Yeah.
reducing stress. It doesn't have to be smoking.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
the thing is, you'll see other people who are stressed and they say, oh, the way I relieve my stress is I smoke, and then you'll think, oh, that must be the only way
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, it's usually because when people are going to smoke, they're like, oh, I really need to, you know, go have a cigarette, whatever. And then that's why people think that it's a good stress reliever, but it's not.
I agree with you like fairly, because I do think we are influenced by our own friends, but I think stress has got a lot to do with it. But the problem is, where else would we or the youngsters go for stress? Are we really taught in school how to deal with stress, how to manage it? Like, the easiest option is to go get a cigarette or go get something like this, and maybe that's why it's so popular in the youth today.
Do you think that then school should obviously play a big part in, you know, getting together workshops of, you know, for stress, you know, for youth, you know, to go to learn more about stress and, you know, how to cope with it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, school focuses so much on the core subjects. There should be a lot more attention to other things like stress and things that are actually going to dictate our life, not just the academic subjects.
Yeah, and on top of that, that's where our community and the schools do come in, because in my school especially, they had a lot of mentors and workers that came in to help support students, and I think that's what we need a lot of in our society, and that's where churches and mosques come in, because they teach us the moral things and what's right and what's wrong, and that's how people start to grow up and start to mature and start to understand what the good and bad things are.
I think schools do support stress a lot as well. Like, I know around my school they've got posters and it tells you what teacher deals with what situations and where you can find them. So there is like the help that you need as well. So you don't always need to like go to smoking a cigarette or whatever. But I think sometimes in most schools it might not be promoted as much as where kids can go to find help, because it is mostly like kids our age that are the ones like maybe going out for a smoke if they get stressed. So I think in schools they had more of a system of how to deal with stress, it would help reduce like drug use in youth.
I do agree with you, but do you think, obviously you mentioned posters, and you know, I've seen that around my school as well, posters about stress and anxiety and bullying. But do you think that today's youth, talking about today's youth, will they actually take notice of the posters or just walk past it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it kind of depends on you as a person, really. Like, if you think talking to someone is going to help you and you are a sensible person who knows that is the right way to go, then you will pay attention to those posters and call the number that it tells you to call. But I guess if you're one of those people who don't really bother with doing the right thing and you want to follow the crowd and act like cool, as they say, then you will go to like drugs and stuff like that.
Just to build on that, I don't think it's just the school's opportunity to help someone, but also the community, like how churches and mosques can help as well. So like in religions, in Islam, like in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, like don't let your own hands destruct yourselves. So, like, the religions teach this, but if there was like sermons and community where the community was open to people to help them, then I think this would have a great effect, and not just school. Because sometimes I think we depend on school so much, we forget about everything else. But school there is to focus on your academic subjects. Yes, they can help you with stress, and it's their job, but I don't think it's that much of their job, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, obviously, there. But like you said, school mostly focus on the academic side, but then should there be more, you know, things to do with, you know, outside mosques and churches, getting people for, you know, for stress anxiety workshops, or, you know, more youth clubs built outside?
Yeah, I do think that. I think these communities, because sometimes a person, he just fears that if I do this and I do that, then somebody might judge me. But if communities, mosques, churches, they come out themselves, then I think the person who's in need would come out much more comfortable.
Yeah, I think the main thing that like the youth can do for if they're stressed, is find a hobby and like take up a sport, maybe like go for a run, because it like definitely clears your head and it's good. It's obviously the like a better alternative than going to, you know, turning to other things that aren't going to help you.
Yeah, like my school promotes like every week we have 1 hour of doing PE, so it's doing sports, and it is a really good stress reliever because it's like an hour where you can completely forget about studying, about anything you're stressed out about, parents, home life, anything, and even just exercising obviously it like releases endorphins that actually do make you happy. So it's all that in itself is a stress reliever. So rather than turning to drugs and smoking and stuff like that, why wouldn't people exercise instead?
And Eve mentioned earlier on about parents as well. You know, obviously parents play a big part in all of our lives, you know, since, you know, childhood. Do you think it's parents' responsibility as well to teach their children about stress and anxiety and, you know, everything that goes on around society?
I think they should try the best, but the relationship between the parent and the child might not always be the best. So he might want to go out, or she might want to go out to a further source of help, like these communities. But I do think the parents should play a big part because they've brought the child up and they've been there since he was born. So I think it's their first duty. But if the child can't approach the parent, then outside helplines are good as well.
Yeah, I feel like every parent and child should have a really tight relationship between them, but it's not always the case. The parents raise the child since they were a kid till they're like 13, 14, until they start taking responsibility to themselves. So there's no reason why there shouldn't be a strong relationship, and that's where the parent really should take action in going to seek help. How do I build a relationship with my child? How do I get them to listen to me? Because in most cases, you have a child and you just raise them. You don't actually know what's going on in their heads, how to raise them properly, what goes on in a kid's head, and how to speak to them.
I know like my parents have always taught me since I was young to like ignore bad influences and always focus on good. So ever since I was little as well, if I ever saw people do anything bad, I'd always avoid that. And I know a lot of people who do smoke, and I always try to avoid those people because I don't want to be influenced by them into doing it myself. So I guess and my parents have taught me that since I was little. So parents do have a massive influence on your life, and how when you grow up, like basically from when you're little to how you grow up, that's all based on what your parents have taught you.
Yeah, it's pretty much your parents do have a lot of input in your life, and it is, for example, not just my parents, other people that I know, elders, is anybody close to you, and I've seen loads of people smoking, and I even say it to elders myself, and that's the reason why is because I've been brought up in a situation where I know that I can neglect these things, I can get rid of these things and block them out of my mind, and yeah, so parents do play a big key role in your life.
Yeah, I agree, but I think, you know, when parents like tell you not to do something, some of the time the kid like won't do it because he's afraid of the parents and he doesn't want to, like, you know, I don't want to disobey my parents. So I think the parents need to teach it in a way that they tell the kid that it's not good for them, like that's why they don't want to do it. Because if the kid grows up and he's like, oh, my parents aren't responsible for me anymore, I'll go do it now. And I don't think that's good. So the parents should teach it in a way that teaches the kid that it's bad for them.
And I think if the parents always say no, if you say no constantly to your child, they'll kind of get annoyed by that and they'll want to go against what you're saying, and that's when kids do start like messing around and hanging out with others that their parents haven't taught them to hang out with, and they'll start misusing drugs and they'll start messing around in like the environment, whatever, and then that's when like police get involved then, and you can say as a parent that you did teach them from the beginning that what was wrong, but if you're constantly saying no, then it's better to explain why it's wrong rather than just telling them no.
Yeah, viewers, we've come for a short break, so we'll catch you after a break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.